everybody, my name is Tanya and this is the This and That book tag. So this tag was created by Kelly from What Kelly Reads and I was tagged by Ange from Beyond the Pages, and there are a number of questions, so let's get into it. The first question is, which is your oldest book and which is your newest? I have got quite a number of books from my childhood, so there are possibly some that are older than this, and then there are others that, because my mother's books are also here, there are books that would be older than me. But I've chosen one from my childhood that's taken the most battering, and that is my copy of the Magic Faraway Tree collection, so The Enchanted Wood, The Magic Faraway Tree, and The Folk of the Faraway Tree by Enid Blyton, and this book has got a lot of love over the years. So I've shown this on my channel before. This my copy has got some issues. It has been read and read and read. It has got water damage. It's got cover damage. Serious issues. I'm pretty sure this went missing for a long time and I just had this, but it's been somewhat reunited, but it's got some problems. So this is certainly one that I've had for a very long time, has been read many times, has been loved a lot, and yes, will never be got rid of. Then the newest book I've got is The Red House Mystery by A. Moon, which was a birthday present from the lovely Jean at Jean's Bookish Thoughts, and I cannot wait to jump into this one. I think it's going to be fantastic. The next question is, what is your biggest book and what is your smallest book in terms of size, not page length? And so the biggest I think would have to be this one, which is 4 Flats, The Dog Strip. I've got 2 volumes which are this size. The other one is called The Long Weekender, also 4 Flats. 4 Flats is a comic and by New Zealand author Murray Ball, and it's from kind of the, I would guess, 70s? Yes, I've checked and it was the 70s. So this is a comic strip that kind of follows Dog. Doesn't have a real name, or he does have a real name, but he stops anybody from revealing what his real name is because it's apparently so embarrassing. Dog is a sheepdog on a farm in New Zealand with his own wool and kind of all the other different animals around the place and the mischief he gets into. This is something that my dad loved, and so we had a lot of Four Flats comics lying around the house that I would read as a child, and now that these kind of big editions have been published covering a lot of the strips from it, we've collected a couple of those. It is definitely a huge format. It's very heavy, and I'm going to put it down now, but I'm going to grab a couple of the old ones from down here to show you what Four Flats is all about. So a much more manageable format. This is one of the volumes of Four Flats that we had growing up, and so you can see this one's quite well loved. But basically, like I said, we're following, it's all from the perspective of the dog, and this is his owner Wool. As I said, it's a New Zealand comic, but I think a lot of it's relatable here in Australia too, about farm life. And I grew up, I wasn't a particularly, farmy kid, but I grew up, we were renting a lot of properties, a lot of cottages on farms, so I grew up kind of on farms as such without being very involved in the running of the farm. So the setting feels very familiar to me as well, and yeah, I think they're really charming. So it's maybe not for everybody, but I think they're great. And so there's a little example of one of the strips. It's something kind of very quintessentially Kiwi and Aussie, I think, and it just makes me laugh a lot, and that would be one of my biggest books. So, but it's easy to show you in this little volume instead. And probably my smallest book is something that I got my mother for Christmas, and it's become part of our Agatha Christie collection, and that is this one, which is Little Grey Cells, The Quotable Poirot. And basically it's just a little book of Poirot quotes, so a lot of different Poirotisms from all his different books. And I love Poirot. I know he's a very arrogant little man, and can definitely rub people up the wrong way, and his ego it doesn't make him the most likable person, but I adore Poirot. I think he's hilarious. I think his pompousness and conceit are hilarious, so that doesn't bother me at all, and I think it's the sweetest little book. His mustache here on the front is done in velvet, and yeah, I think it's a little lovely addition to our Agatha Christie shelves. Then the next question is to show your longest book and shortest book in page length. In technicality, there are probably ones that I've got longer than this that I'm showing in the next question, but in terms of one single book, the longest one I have is A Suitable Boy by Vikram Seth, which comes in at around 1500 pages. It's absolutely massive. I've not read this one yet. I really would like to read it at some point in time. when I have the time to sit down and devote myself to something this big. But this is definitely in a single volume of a single book, the longest book that I own. And then for my shortest book, I've gone with this volume, which is A Modest Proposal and Other Satirical Works by Jonathan Swift. And this one comes in at a very modest 59 pages. It's a teeny tiny little thing. I've only read A Modest Proposal from this. I haven't read the other writings that are in here. I would like to read the rest of the stuff in here at some point in time. I've not got around to it at all, but very amusing stuff. The next question is to show your most expensive book and what was your best bargain. You'll see why this potentially could come in as the greatest page length, but because it's in 3 volumes, I didn't go with this one, and I'm showing it again now. Anyway, but my most expensive book is probably this one, which I've shown before, which is The Arabian Nights, Tales of the Thousand Nights, in 3 volumes in the beautiful cloth-bound edition designed by Carly Bickford Smith. It is stunning, and it cost a fair bit of money, and I am so happy with that, and it is just gorgeous, and I love it, and it wasn't too bad, but it definitely would have been the single most expensive item on my shelves. Then my greatest bargain, I probably got some freebies on my shelves, but for something that was a really good recent bargain, I have The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This one I purchased after getting a voucher for my birthday from a local bookstore and their rewards program. I also had quite a number of other points racked up that I wasn't aware of, so I ended up only paying a couple of dollars for this because I had so much in rewards, so win-win. The next question is to show your most beautiful book and your ugliest. I tried to pick out something that I hadn't really shown much on my channel before, but when I was looking for beautiful books, I just couldn't go past this one, and this is The Beautiful and Damned by F. Scott Fitzgerald in the gorgeous editions, like the foil editions, designed again by Carly Bickford Smith. It's well documented my love for her, but this edition is just stunning. There's a whole set of F. Scott Fitzgeralds in these designs, but this is the one I think that just stands out the most on my shelves. I think it's absolutely beautiful, and I love it so much, and I really need to read it, so there's that. And so for my ugliest, I've chosen another Dover Thrift edition. I showed A Modest Proposal a moment ago. That's the Dover Thrift edition, which is also fairly ugly, but the one I've gone with is my edition of Metamorphosis and Other Stories by Franz Kafka. There's nothing appealing about this at all. I saw Jo from Jo Reads Books had a gorgeous edition of the Metamorphosis that she read sometime last year. It was absolutely stunning. I need to get that version instead of this one, but probably I should actually read it first and decide whether I actually want it on my shelves or not. But anyway, this does nothing for me. The next question is, what is your favourite book and a book that you hated? Choosing a favourite is just so painful, but if I'm forced, the one that I pick is Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. I've got it here in this gorgeous cloth-bound box set with The Hobbit, which I also adore. I love everything about this so much. I am way overdue for a reread. I say this so often on my channel. Hopefully 2016 will be the year that I finally manage to reread this again, because it's been a while. I've read it a few times. I just adore it and just love, 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 love. Then the book that I've chosen for one that I hated is something that I really didn't like at the time that I read it. I have been meaning to reread it and see what I think about it now for quite a long time. I was meant to read it last year and that didn't happen, but that is My Brother Jack by George Johnson. This is something that I read in year 11 at school, and I remember really not enjoying it at all and kind of struggled to get through it. And I wonder now, as an adult instead of as a 16-year-old, what I would think of it. So I was doing my school books project last year. I got up to year 11. Maybe this is why I stopped, because I knew I had to read this soon. That'd be typical. But I got up to year 11, I read some of the year 11 books, but I hadn't got to this one yet. So when I eventually continue on with that project, kind of sporadically, this one will be coming soon. So this is one that I don't remember really caring for, but I'm intrigued to see what I think about now. Next question is to name a book that made you cry and a book that made you laugh. For cry, I've gone with A Fine Balance by Rohinton Mystery, although parts of this could also count for made you laugh, because this is just such an emotional impact, just ups and downs and just devastating. But there's a lot of humour in it too, a lot of light, but so much dark. And I didn't cry because I don't really find myself crying, but I know I was absolutely numb when finishing this. I know I've said before, I still remember the exact part of the road I was driving on when I finished this, and I just drove in silence the rest of the 15 minutes home, numb and shocked. So this one definitely affected me, and if I was a crier, I would have cried. For a book that made me laugh, I have gone with The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. This is a bind-up of the first 4 books in the series. This is just, I love Douglas Adams so much. This makes me laugh so much. So much love for this book. Next question is to name a book that warmed your heart and a book that made you shiver. For Warmed Your Heart, I've gone with Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day by Winifred Watson. This book is just so lovely. We're following a character who is kind of older and out of a job and, you know, has never really lived, and she comes and crosses paths with a young woman who's kind of got everything before her. Her life is exciting and she's kind of swept up through a misunderstanding, and, you know, it changes her life, and it's just so wonderful, so lovely. I need to reread this. I just read it with the greatest grin on my face the whole time. It was just, it warmed my heart. Then for a book that made me shiver, I've gone with The Dark by James Herbert. I don't read a lot of horror. It's just not something that I've read much of. It's not necessarily that I dislike it, but this is probably, you know, one of the most horror books I've read, and it definitely gives you the shivers. The Dark is kind of about this kind of evil presence, I guess, that's affecting people, and lots of horrible things happen. And because I'm very much a reader that puts myself into a book and into the situation with the characters, there are some scenes in this that are very uncomfortable to have put yourself into, because imagining yourself in this situation is just just horrible. So this definitely gave me the shivers in those particular scenes when I went, no, I don't need to be visualizing myself in this situation. Thank you very much. Just no. The next question is to name a book that you can't wait to read and one that you've been putting off. For something that I can't wait to read, I've gone with Boy Snowbird by Helen Oyeyemi. I absolutely adored Mr. Fox by Helen Oyeyemi. I read that in 2015 and it made my favourite books of the year. So Boy Snowbird is the other book of hers that I own at the moment, and I cannot wait. And then for the one that I've been putting off, it's not necessarily putting off, but one of those books that you say you want to read, you really want to get to, it just never happens, and I've got a lot of those, but for this I've gone for Moby Dick by Herman Melville. You know, it's just one of those books that you think you should read. So I'm not going to say 2016 is going to be that year, because I'm not putting pressure and goals on myself, but maybe 2016 will be the year that I finally read Moby Dick. Wait and see. Next question is to recommend a book that you want more people to read, and one that wasn't as good as expected. For the one that I want more people to read, I don't actually own a physical copy because I listen to it on audiobook, and while I'd like a physical copy, I think the audiobook will forever have my heart. But the story of Lucy Gold is the story of Lucy Gold, who is a young girl who is growing up in Ireland during the Irish Revolution, and her family decide it is, you know, too dangerous to remain where they are, and they plan to move and take Lucy to England. But Lucy doesn't want to go, and so on the eve of the day that they're meant to leave, Lucy runs away, and it sets off this whole chain of misunderstandings and, you know, ongoing effects that just affect everybody's lives just forever. And it's just heartbreaking and horrible and just so wonderful and compelling, and everybody should read it because it's just wonderful. And then for one that wasn't as good as expected, I've gone with The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen by Alan Moore. It's just got such an amazing, promising premise, and I found myself really quite disappointed. So I read this one last year. I look back and I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads, which the way it's kind of sitting with me now feels too generous. I think it definitely should have been more like a 2-star. Like I said, I love the premise, and the premise had me really excited, but just the execution, I didn't really care for it at all. It wasn't as good as I expected. Just the promise was so good. And then the last question is to name the next book you want to purchase and the next book you'll be getting off your shelves. There are a lot of things that I'd like to purchase, so it's hard narrowing it down to one thing. But I think for one of the next things that I'd like to get, I received Exo Orpheus 50 New Myths for Christmas from Jean from Jean's Bookish Thoughts in our Booktubers Secret Santa. And so I'd also like to purchase My Mother, She Killed Me, My Father, He Ate Me, which is the fairy tale kind of counterpart of that one, which is also edited by Kate Bernheimer. And so I'd like that one to have a matching set on my shelf, so I might be purchasing that one sooner rather than later. And then for the next book that I'm going to remove from my shelves, I have recently got all of my books out of storage. With these new bookshelves and the ones at the front passage, I've now, for the first time in many years, probably ever, been able to see all my books at once and realise just how strange my collection is, which is fine, but also the things that I've kind of moved on from that maybe I'm not so interested in anymore. I'm thinking I need to do a bit of a cull. So it'll be interesting to see what. I've got a box at the moment of things to get rid of, but they're mainly like duplicates of things that I've got a nicer edition of now. So that's not so interesting, but I've had a little bit of a look, and the kinds of things that I think are the most likely to need a bit of a cull from my collection are things like Fallen by Lauren Kate, This is something that I purchased kind of in the post-Twilight phase, you know, when Twilight was a huge thing, and then all of these types of things started coming out. So this particular one is to do with fallen angels, I believe. I don't think I care. That's not to say that there's anything at all wrong with reading these types of books. It's just not where I am as a reader. And in that case, with all the amazing books that I love to buy, something like this doesn't need to be taking up that space on my shelf. So I think maybe this one might be one of the first ones that get a bit of a shelf. So that's the thing. So this was the This and That book tag, and a lot of people have done this one now, and I've lost all track, so I'm not going to be tagging anybody in particular. But if you've not done this one yet and would like to do it, I tag you. As always, thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!